Welcome to This Explainer. You know, if you've ever stopped and wondered what actually separates a thriving, massively powerful AI system from one that just completely spirals into catastrophic failure, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're mapping out what's called the 3D civilizational phase space. It's essentially the exact blueprint for understanding stability and collapse in advanced systems.
Let's establish a really crucial baseline right out of the gate. We are not talking about some speculative, far-off sci-fi future here. The energetic paradigm, or EP, already achieves this civilizational map today. It structurally engineers the conditions for stability rather than just crossing its fingers and hoping for the best. It defines exactly where stability or collapse occurs through three things: energy throughput, structural coherence, and autonomy density. Here is our roadmap for today's journey. We'll be moving through the AI civilization map, the three axes of stability, the danger of scaling, structured industrial AI, the self-consistent field civilization, and finally, how EP engineers emergence right now.
All right, Section 1, the AI civilization map. So let's dive in and see what we're actually looking at. There's this concept that really hits the nail on the head. A civilizational phase space is absolutely not just some decorative diagram. It literally has one job, and that is to identify exactly where stability exists and where collapse boundaries form. Think of it like a survival map. We're looking for the exact mathematical boundaries between those dangerous red regions of instability and the deep blue-green basins of robust, solid architecture.
Moving right along to Section 2, the three axes of stability.
To really read this 3D map, we have to understand the three critical variables that dictate whether a system survives or fails. They form the X, Y, and Z coordinates of our phase space: energy throughput, structural coherence, and autonomous decision density. Every single system out there, from a basic, simple script to a massive global AI network, sits somewhere within these three dimensions. Let's break them down one by one, starting with energy. First up is energy throughput, which we just refer to as E. This tracks the sheer volume of resources and operational force driving a system forward. We are talking about raw power, the massive scale of compute, the actual capital injected into it, and the total operational load. You can basically think of this as the engine of the system.
Next, we have structural coherence, or S. Now, if energy is the engine of a car, structure is the chassis, the steering wheel, and the brakes. It measures the absolute discipline and organization of the pathways that have to handle all that energy. It asks questions like, how strong are your feedback loops? How robust are your constraint gates and authority structures? This is literally what holds the whole shebang together under immense pressure. And finally, we have autonomous decision density, or AAD. This one tells us the volume of critical choices being handed over directly to automated machine intelligence. It's a measure of how much the system is just driving itself without human intervention, the ghost in the machine, so to speak. Section 3, the danger of scaling, and specifically tensor instability.
Now let's track a system's evolutionary path and see what happens when these three variables get totally out of whack. Let's compare two states. On the one hand, we have primitive stability. Think of your early, low-level systems. Honestly, they're stable simply because they lack power. Energy is low, autonomy is low, and the gradients are incredibly small. But then, look at the other side, scaling instability. This happens when energy and autonomy absolutely skyrocket. The system gets crazy fast, powerful, and automated, but structural coherence, it fails to keep up. It completely lags behind.
Because here is the crucial point. Instability isn't caused by just having high energy or high autonomy alone. It is caused entirely by disproportionality. It's like strapping a jet engine to a bicycle. When structure lags behind power and autonomy, you enter the danger zone and get what's called tensor instability. Suddenly, small perturbations amplify into massive, system-wide shocks. Correction windows shrink down to nothing, and dependencies become incredibly fragile. High energy without proportional structure is basically a guaranteed recipe for total collapse.
All right, Section 4, structured industrial AI. So, how does a system pull out of that terrifying danger zone? This is where structured industrial AI comes into play. It restores balance through a very specific three-step mechanism. Step 1, structural coherence finally catches up to the system's massive energy. Step 2, to actually pull that off, the pathways, feedback loops, and authority structures are heavily strengthened, and rigid constraint gates are built. And step 3, as a result, stability is officially restored.
A high-energy system can absolutely be stable, for sure, but only if the structural pathways are strong enough to safely channel all that force.
Section 5. The ultimate phase. Self-consistent field civilization.
But evolution doesn't just stop at industrial AI. Eventually, it pushes into a profoundly advanced state. In a self-consistent field civilization, autonomous decision density gets so remarkably high that the AI isn't just operating within a system anymore. It is actively participating in reshaping the very conditions and fields that govern the system itself. It literally modifies its own environment.
Now, to actually survive this incredibly advanced phase, you can't just throw more compute or more raw power at the problem. Ultimate stability at this level requires strictly proportional structure. The structural coherence must remain flawlessly balanced with the system's immense power and its environment-altering autonomy. If that proportionality breaks at this stage, no way around it. The collapse is total.
Section 6. EP Engineers Emergence Now. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway regarding the energetic paradigm's current capabilities. Now, we need to be very precise here. We aren't claiming that EP has magically solved every single frontier-scale AI problem out there, but it undeniably achieves this necessary structural transition right now, conceptually, demonstratively, and experimentally at the layers we're analyzing. It actively proves that the transition from scaling instability to structured stability is achievable today.
Because here is the core differentiator, a real game changer. The standard industry approach right now is to basically just blindly scale up energy and autonomy, cross your fingers, and wait for stability to magically emerge in larger models. But we don't have to wait for that. Bigger models wait for emergence. EP already engineers it. It actively builds the structural conditions required for stability, path discipline, and attractor formation today. So as you look at your own systems architecture, or even just the architecture of the AI platforms shaping our entire world right now, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Are you just scaling energy and autonomy completely blindly and waiting for stability to magically emerge? Or are you actively engineering the proportional structural intelligence your system actually needs to survive the phase space? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.